I wanted to start out, well, basically I wanted to tell a little bit of a story, just one of so many. And I'm going to start it by reading something that I gave to Amanda a while ago. It might not make that much sense, but I'm going to do my best to explain it in maybe 2 minutes or less. Let's say 8 minutes or less. So let me read it first. It says, "Don't worry. With optimism, our wave function will create the luckiest universe. Seemingly unlucky moments like these," now I'm not talking about now, I gave this to her in a completely different situation. "Seemingly unlucky moments like these will further entangle our quantum states and prove to be the positive additions to our future's past." So as you can probably tell,
this is the man I'm marrying. I've married. Sorry, this is a little hard.
Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. And Graham sort of alluded a little bit. He said he'd leave the explanation of quantum mechanics up to me. So I'm not sure that can be done in 8 minutes or less. But first of all, has anyone heard of quantum mechanics, at least? All right, that's a good start. A little sparse, but does anyone understand quantum mechanics? 2. Oh, that's. Who's the second? I knew Nick would put up his hand. Who's this? Fred. Fred. Oh, I completely forgot about Fred. Okay, so you guys are gonna have to help me out a bit because I don't understand. I kind of doubt these guys. I'll talk to them later. But there's a couple things I've sort of figured out about it. One, it's pretty weird. It's pretty messed up, which is interesting because it happens to be the single most tested and proven theory out of pretty much any scientific theory. I mean, it's just gone through all the experiments. But okay, so I don't want to get too much into the science here today. I want to anyway. The other thing about it is this: there's a weird consequence of quantum mechanics. When you look at how its effect combines with things like consciousness, the mind, and love, it does some weird things, and it can actually have a huge effect on the world and the universe. And I'm not talking about if your conscious mind thinks of something and you act and do it. That's one very powerful thing. But the other thing is just an immediate, direct mind love effect on the universe. And so I'm going to tell you a story about Amanda and I that sort of hopefully make this a little bit. I thought I'd tell a story rather than going into this scientific proof. But if you are interested in the proof, there's lots of books I can recommend, and I'll get into that later. Anyway, so this story starts with an adventure. Amanda and I go on endless adventures. All of our time together is just unbelievably adventurous and exciting. So I want to talk about one adventure specifically, and actually, I think it was Graham, someone mentioned it. It had to do with a trip that we decided to take to Disneyland. And so we decided, well, we'll drive down to Disneyland, that should be fine. I was in Seattle at the time, but the car was in Edmonton. So I flew from Salt Lake City to Edmonton because I was visiting Amanda right before as well. And she flew to Edmonton, we met there, we grabbed the car, and we hopped in. Now, I'm sure some of you might have driven to Disneyland, but we decided to take only about 11 days is the actual number. I think it was 2 weeks then. But we had 11 days, that's it, drive down to Disneyland. We had planned about 3 full days at Disneyland. And even that plan was detailed. But in addition to Disneyland, we thought, well, it's on the way. We might as well stop in Seattle, Corvallis, Oregon. We had an unplanned stop in Newport, Oregon for about a day. We camped at Redwood. We visited Stephen in San Francisco. We stopped in Los Angeles for a walk down the beach and a few other things. And then, of course, Disneyland was the next stop. We were there for a full 3 days, excellent time. We even hit up Las Vegas, which was kind of a bit of a down. There were some ups and downs in the trip, but we hit it up again later, and it was more of a sinusoidal. Anyway, then we camped again at the Grand Canyon and Salt Lake City. So try and jam this all into about 11 days, and you start to get an idea of what the trip is like. And we didn't just drive through each of these places. We had a meaningful visit at each. For example, San Francisco is the one I want to talk about specifically. In San Francisco, we were there for about 15 hours, but we managed to fit in a visit, where did we visit? We managed to fit in a visit at, well, we spent actually a few hours at the Exploratorium, because you can't miss that, obviously. We rode the trolleys, we walked down the Presidio, we explored downtown, we even made it out to Alcatraz. I think I flowboarded down Lombard Street. And we even bought Amanda a pearl down at that, you pick your own pearl kind of a thing. So we fit it all in. And I think this was one of our more packed areas, and it made a bit of an emotional experience. it was, you know, the whole trip was greatly exciting from that respect. And so Amanda was definitely not having the best time in San Francisco for a number of reasons. And I think mostly we just tried to pack way too much in. And I was doing just everything I could think of to cheer her up. And I've got some experience in that area, so, and usually I can manage. Would you agree? Okay. Usually I at least have a few ideas that work, you know, the jokes, or there's so many ways, but I tried them all this day, and none of them were working. So I started to turn to quantum mechanics. And we were standing in a park, and I could just tell Amanda was, again, probably for the, I don't know, again, she was almost at tears. And I had to do something. So I was like, okay, let's make a deal, Amanda. If I can quantum mechanically conjure a 4-leaf clover right at my feet, would you please, if I can do that, I mean, come on, would you please just smile for me one time? And she's like, well, what are the chances of him? I mean, I hadn't planted anything, this wasn't the spot. What are the chances of him coming up with a 4-leaf clover? So she agreed, just because she knew there was no chance. So my heart started beating, because I was like, oh geez, here it comes. It's up to me now. And I bent down, and sure enough, right between my feet, there was, I didn't even look. It was just, the first clover I picked happened to have 4 leaves on it. I handed it to Amanda with full confidence, and she burst into tears. But she did smile. She did smile, and so it was. I think it was a happy tears, but I guess we'll never know for sure. Anyway, so normally when I'm using my quantum mechanics and my consciousness to try and control the universe, or have some effect on the universe, normally it's a very limited effect. Things that are very chaotic systems, like the weather today, for example, it's more of a chaotic system. It's much conjuring a 4-leaf clover at my feet was something that was just unreal. And the reason that this was possible on that day, I think, is because of the strength of the love between Amanda and I. We were and are, and will continue to be forever, so much in love that amazing things, infinitely improbable things can happen, and they happened that day, and they've been happening ever since. The really cool thing about this is just one minuscule example. Our relationship as a whole has been a larger version of this clover story. Just the mere fact that she would even think for a second of coming back to me after the first mess up was a greater example than the 4-leaf clover, but statistically speaking, that was much less probable than finding a 4-leaf clover at my feet. We're almost done here. Sorry, I crossed out so many things here to try and cut it down. I don't know what's the next. No, okay, I think the net here. So let me read this again to you in the context. Oh, jeez, I didn't even. So this is actually the very clover. I don't know if everyone can see it there. It's in between these 2 pieces of glass. That's the very clover that I found proof that I created it. But again, it wasn't me that created it. It was our love together. It was Amanda. I couldn't have done. Not only that, I couldn't have done anything that I've done in the last 6 years without Amanda. This is, even when we were apart, none of the things I could have done would have been possible without Amanda. So I'm going to read it again, and maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. So don't worry, with optimism, our wave function will create the luckiest universe. Seemingly unlucky moments will further entangle our quantum states and prove to be the positive additions to our future's past. Love, Trevor Prentice. Now let me just translate this a little bit. So in other words, no matter what comes our way, Amanda, our love will keep us together forever. And I mean that in the most scientific sense. Forever. Infinite. I love you.